The South African Democratic Teachers Union in the Northwest is condemning violence and assaults on teachers. This comes after the union reported an attack on two female educators over allegations of incorrect appointments of support staff. For more on this, I'm joined by George Themba, Sadtu Northwest Secretary. George, appreciate your time this evening. Would you provide more details about the incident involving the attack on the educators in the Northwest?
Well, good evening and evening to the viewers. We are told that the educators that were attacked were apparently on an allegation of wrongful appointments of the support staff in the schools around Masamani Primary School. So that's the report that we've received with regard to that particular attack on those particular educators, and they were also assaulted.
So let's talk about their state of health at the moment. How are they? What was the severity of the injuries, if any?
Well, we have called as a union in the province, engaging with the officials of the department, that those particular educators must then be able to receive the necessary support in terms of the psychosocial support. But the department has responded, a day after, to make sure that those particular educators receive the necessary psychosocial support. But we were told that they were highly traumatized, by this particular occurrence of them being attacked over an allegation that they themselves don't have power over it.
Well, I'm talking more about injuries. Did they sustain any injuries? Are you aware of this?
No, we are not necessarily informed of any, deep injuries that they would have sustained.
Okay, well, let's talk about the reaction from the community. Have you been able to engage with the community, or certainly members of Sadtu?
Look, there has been a series of meetings, and some of the community members necessarily are not supporting this particular attack on these particular educators because they feel that necessarily these educators are not the ones who might have led to this situation, except that they've got issues now currently with the head of the institution, because they feel that the head of the institution is the one who has propelled this particular wrongful appointment of the support staff in the institution.
So you're convinced that the appointment of the staff was incorrect? Has this been confirmed?
Look, we have, as an organization, called on the department to investigate. We did not want outrightly to some thumbs up, on this particular matter, but to say to the department, we requesting that they must be able to investigate the matter. We're expecting them to be able to provide us with a report, a detailed report of what has happened, with a view that the situation needs to be corrected. If indeed there were wrongful appointments, we hope that the department should be able to act accordingly so that there could be normality back in the situation at the school.
So you've talked about the two educators that were impacted, and obviously they're in a bit of a state, I'd like to imagine. What about the other educators in their school or in the schools?
Look, there's always been a disruption, of normal schooling in the school, precisely because of that. Because it's apparent that these support staff members who were apparently overlooked by the principal or the management of the institution, they have been in the school for some time, offering their services voluntarily. And when an opportunity arose for them to be given an opportunity, probably also to be, employed, and they were overlooked. We're not sure what might transpired, and therefore that's why, amongst others, the communities were irritated to an extent that they took law unto themselves, which we are not necessarily condoning. And as a union, we are seriously condemning that particular act, because we think the community must be able to play a role in terms of supporting and protecting the educators, so that they must be able to be in a safe environment in our schools.
Is it possible that those that missed out on this opportunity would have instigated the violence, or certainly the beating or the charging of...
Beg your pardon?
I said, do you suspect that the individuals that missed out on this promotion or this job opportunity might have instigated the violence that was meted out on these educators?
Well, we cannot tell at this particular moment. Hence, we have then said the matter must be investigated. Obviously, anything, it's possible, under the sun. Taking note, of, situations of unemployment, and once opportunities arises, anyone who probably see an opportunity of an employment obviously will then see it as a way of being able to secure something. So we are not necessarily 100% sure who might have probably been the instigators of this particular barbaric act.
So what are the broader implications of this attack, certainly on educators across South Africa, not obviously just in the northwest that we're talking about? Because there's wanton mob justice, if you will, particularly where educators are concerned, and these are the very people that are looking after our children in the communities.
Look, there are serious consequences and a negative impact in acts of violence in schools. You look into issues of teacher turnout, where probably educators might not necessarily, want to be a part of such a school or a society where violence is perpetuated against the educators. And then you can ask yourself a question: if the teachers will not want to teach in such a kind of a society or community or a school, what will then happen with those particular learners? There's also obviously a question of negative reputation towards that particular community or school, where people will know that such an school, that's where teachers are not protected, but over the teachers have been attacked. Obviously, issues of stress and burnout will then impact on the educators, and over and above that, with limited resources that are there in the sector, there will be a situation where probably these limited resources need to be redirected away from your fundamental of addressing, learning and teaching in a school, and probably using that, to address issues of safety. And obviously, this on its own, generally, it decreases the quality of education in our school, because if the environment that our educators are practicing on are not safe, obviously you'll understand that there's no way that there could be effective learning and teaching that is taking place. So we think it's important that our communities must understand, the primary role and important role that the educators are playing. That is why, as a South African Democratic Teachers Union, one of the campaigns that we are rolling out across is what we call I'm a School Fan campaign, a campaign that seeks to bring communities closer to our schools, because we don't think really the school is only about educators and learners and parents. We think schools are part of the community, and therefore it's important that we're able to bring our communities very closer to schools, so that they must be able to understand that schools should be able to be safe havens. And as such, through this particular campaign of us, which is a School Fan campaign, we denounce violence in our schools, and we don't think really this is very good for our education system generally, because in future we might be able to have a situation where even young aspiring teachers feel that the profession itself is not safe, and therefore they will not necessarily venture into that particular space.
Now, I'd imagine that the educators are pressing charges against the individuals that attack them.
Well, we were told that they've pressed charges against those particular individuals. Hence, we have said in our statement that the law enforcement agencies must also investigate, and the law must take its course, because there is no one who has the right necessarily to inflict pain, to any other individual. For whatever reason, there is no one who has that particular right.
So let's talk about the correct appointment procedure. And as far as the educators are concerned, what would have been the correct procedure?
Well, normally, we know that people obviously should apply from a gazette that would have advertised those particular posts. There should be a sitting by the governing structure of the institution where there should be shortlisting processes. with the set, criteria in terms of their shortlisting processes, and interviews must take place, and those that obviously would be able to satisfy, the requirements during the interview processes must be the ones that are appointed. But we are also told that these volunteers, for some time they were doing job in the school, and in some instances the community had, because they were not paid, the community had to contribute something so that they are able to get something on a monthly basis. So you will understand probably why, this kind of, of a response. But however, because we are not conclusive in whatever, we are still waiting to get the detailed report to actually what might have transpired.
So how is the DBE and Sadtu working together on resolving these issues, or certainly this issue in particular?
Hence I've indicated, Chairman X, that we have indicated that on this particular specific matter, we want to get a report. But generally, on issues of violence, we have always Sadtu, across the country, raised an issue on safety of educators, because you will realize that this situation, where educators are being attacked, in some instances killed, is not necessarily just a situation in the Northwest. It's a situation that is affecting, educators across the country. Therefore, we have always emphasized the need that the department must, amongst others, prioritize the issue of safety in our schools. Issues of access control in our schools. Who comes in and out of the school for whatever reason, reporting through the principal's office. Those are some of the things that we think they are necessary. But over and above that, we have said, indeed, there need to be a continuous dialogue. We know that there have always been, sittings around this, your national safety framework, that has been penned out. But we are saying we have always conversed around this particular aspect. It is time that collectively we must be able to act together, because we don't think this issue of violence is just a matter that relates to school. It's a societal matter, and some of the challenges that perpetuate to this thing are the societal challenges that we're experiencing on our daily basis. That is why we are saying we need to work together with all stakeholders, Department of Basic Education, trade unions, community members, traditional leaders, church leaders, and everybody who is involved in making sure that we're able to take care of the future of our kids through schooling.
Sergeant Northwest Secretary George Themba, thank you for speaking to us on News at Prime.